Shall we begin?
Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
Is that all you got?
Let's begin now.
What up? Oh, for sure.
Hi everybody, how are you? Hello everybody in the chat. How are you on this fine day? I have not got good news for you, everybody. Yeah, I've got some pretty bad news. And this light is not very good either. I'm not very well lit up here, am I? Oh well, should have really put the other light on. How are you everybody? It's it's bad news today. It's really bad news because this is breaking and it's a case not many people are talking about, so it's up to us to talk about it in independent media, and you and I out there, you know, you as well. We need to talk about this because nobody else is. The news is this: Julian Assange has been refused permission to appeal his extradition case to the Supreme Court. Now remember, the case was going to the Supreme Court on a point of law. It wasn't, you know, there's no stuff was going to come up about war crimes or anything like that, it seems, in that Supreme Court, although we're not going to have it now. It was a point of law because basically what had happened is the Magistrates Court, you may remember, had refused the extradition. And only then on appeal did the United States present evidence that they said meant Julian Assange wouldn't face special administration measures in America, solitary confinement, etc., torture. And this was based on basically a letter from the United States saying, we pinky swear we won't torture him. Now, the case they're going to take that case to the Supreme Court based on that, but the Supreme Court have said no. They won't hear the case now. So now it will go to Priti Patel. And, well, we know what's going to happen there, don't we? We know that Priti Patel is going to rubber stamp this extradition. There's no hope, I don't think, of anything getting reversed there. So really it's up to us to put as much pressure on our politicians and on our media as possible to get this case heard. You know, what I said here, I truly believe. This is not hyperbole on my behalf. I really do believe that until Julian Assange is released from prison, until he's back with his family and his children and his soon-to-be wife, the UK has no sovereignty. Until that happens, the United Kingdom is America's little bitch. That's what we are. I wrote a letter to my MP before I came on air, pretty much saying just that. Pretty much saying, if you don't oppose this to my politician, this is my local politician, my MP, your blood, his blood is going to be on your hands, and every single politician who's taking the path of least resistance on this. I have made my MP aware that according to the testimony of, I think it's over 30 current and former spies, people in the CIA, NSA, etc., that Julian Assange, there were plans to kidnap and kill him in the centre of London just a couple of years ago. Let's just bring that article up. How can we extradite a journalist to the country that planned to kidnap and kill him based on them just saying, we promise we won't do it? You know, do I have to mention Jeffrey Epstein? Do I have to mention that? Do I have to mention, anybody who, let's face it, opposes United States hegemony and their war crimes around the world and what they're doing? We are murdering a man for telling the truth about war crimes here. We are torturing him. We are, not China, not Saudi Arabia, not North Korea. We are, and that's not my words, by the way. That's the words of Niels Meltzer, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture. That's his words. We are psychologically torturing a man, a journalist who's never lied to us. Everything he's ever published has factually checked out. How many journalists can you say that about? None. They've published over 1 million documents per year, every year of their existence, pretty much up until the last couple. And not a single one of them is false, or proven to be false. He proved war criminals are war criminals. He released more stories of global gravitas in the 15 years that WikiLeaks has been around than the previous 70 combined that the legacy media had exposed. On his own. One man. Pretty much. With the people behind him, of course. And this is, of course, why the media was so silent on this. They're so silent on his torture. Because they've gone along with it. They've cheered it on. They can't suddenly come out and be vocal against it now. Because they've cheered his murder and his torture on for over a decade. I'm looking at you, Guardian journalists. You Guardian journalists right now who are pointing fingers at Vladimir Putin and saying, look how terrible he is. Look, he's a war criminal. Look, this is disgusting what he's doing in Ukraine. And you know what? I agree with them. Every single word they're saying. Putin is a war criminal, what he's doing in Ukraine. There's no doubt about that. But it's a tiny, minuscule amount compared to the crimes that Julian Assange exposed, that we and America, our masters, are complicit in. These journalists are yelling, Putin's a terrible, bad person, while silent on the fact that we're torturing the best journalist pretty much that's ever walked the planet on home soil and have been for a decade. And they've cheered it on. And now it's going to go to Priti Patel's desk. And she's going to sign it and say, oh, it's got to go to America. Oh, this is something to do with... No, it's not. It's not something to do with Sweden. Nobody's talking about Sweden anymore, are they? We cannot extradite a political prisoner to America. We can't. We just can't. That's against the rules. What's the point in having them if you don't actually abide by them? Not only did the CIA draw up plans, not only were they drawing up plans to kidnap and kill Julian Assange in the centre of London, this rogue state that is after him, that Priti Patel is just about to sign his death warrant and send him off to the United States. The same country whose intelligence organisations, laughable, isn't it? Intelligence agency. Their intelligence agents, the FBI in this case, just the indictment against Assange and the FBI indictment against Assange, the first one, not the superseding ones that came after, but the first one, was based on him being a hacker. Do you remember? It was a hacker. He was a hacker. Ziggy Thordarson is the guy that they had the testimony from to say that, yeah, Julian asked me to hack into the Icelandic, something to do with the Icelandic MPs. He's admitted, Siggy Thordarson has, Siggy the hacker, he's admitted on record in an article with Stundin that what is in that testimony is lies. This is fabricated testimony from a convicted fraudster and pedophile. Yes, pedophile. In order to get immunity against any prosecution. He conned them. He conned the FBI and they went along with it because at the end of the day, they didn't care whether anything was true or not. They just wanted their hands on Assange. Got to get him. Got to make an example of it. Well, don't have to get him. We're making an example of him right now. That's why every journalist in The Guardian is quiet on this, by the way. They see what's happening to Assange and they're all spineless. Yes, every single one of them. All of them. They're all spineless. Any journalist in this country who has not been screaming from the rooftops about this for at least the last 3 years, let's face it, since he's been in Belmarsh. Our version of Guantanamo Bay. And why, by the way? Why is he in Belmarsh in solitary confinement in our version of Guantanamo Bay? Why is he? No reason. No reason. No, he's not been sent there for any crime he's committed. No. He's not there right now under any charge whatsoever. He's on remand. In the UK's version of Guantanamo Bay, where he's been for over 1,000 days with terrorists and murderers and rapists and child molesters. For what? Because he proved that war criminals in America and here were war criminals. And they didn't like that. There's no room for truth in the 21st century, apparently. The United States has got global jurisdiction over the truth. And we're just their little bitch in the UK. Do you remember what he screamed, Julian? As he was being dragged out of that embassy. Do you remember? He wasn't screaming, I'm not a rapist. He wasn't screaming, don't send me to Sweden. He wasn't screaming, this is a farce. This is a stitch-up. He was, even then, trying to warn us. The UK has no sovereignty. The UK must resist. That's what he was screaming. And by the way, we wouldn't know that if it wasn't for a Russian channel. You know all this censorship that's going on at the moment? We wouldn't know. What Julian was saying is he was dragged out the embassy if it wasn't for a Russian channel recording it, Rupley, which is RT. We wouldn't have that footage. All our media had gone home. They'd gone home. I stopped longer than they did. The only reason I had to go home, I had a dog to feed. I stopped longer than our media did. They told us he was going to be dragged out the embassy in an act of fascism. He was dragged out of the embassy in an act of fascism, and our media had fucked off. We wouldn't know about it if it wasn't for a Russian channel, Rupley. That was a message. The UK has no sovereignty. The UK must resist. While holding a copy of that. Gore Vidal's History of the National Security State. What do you think he was trying to tell us? What do you think Julian was trying to tell us? By saying, we have no sovereignty, we must resist, while holding that. What do you think he was trying to tell us? If you're a politician in this country and you're not talking about this and you're not resisting this, I want to know who you serve. I want to know, do you serve the UK people or do you serve American fascists? Let's face it, because that's what they are. When Julian wrote that letter to me, he said unfortunate elements within it when he was talking about the American government. They're not all bad, of course. But the people that are signing this and going along with this extradition and enabling this torture of a journalist for telling the truth, They really are fascists. They really are. And if you're in America right now and you're thinking, oh, isn't it great that we haven't got Trump anymore? Wake the F up, because Biden's no different. He's gone along with this. It was Obama that started it, remember? 3 presidents now have cheered on this torture. 4 if you include Bush. He told the truth. When telling the truth becomes a crime, aren't you ruled by criminals? I don't know what else I can say about this. I really don't. The journalists in this country, just shame on you. Every single one of you, shame on you. Have you not got a spine? How do you stand up? How do you stand up and walk around? You invertebrate. I've written to my MP, please do so. If you go to the WikiLeaks website, there's the WikiLeaks defence website. They've made it very easy for you to write to your MP and oppose this. Don't let your MP fob you off either with a bog standard letter. Don't. Tell them Siggy lied. Link them to the Stunding article. Explain to them that the FBI's key witness is a convicted fraudster and pedophile. Somebody who admitted that he lied in his testimony. He's admitted that. That was the first extradition. That was the first one. That was the first unsealed indictment. By the way, that guy, Siggy Thordarson, I spoke to the journalist. I had a chat with the journalist who actually talked to him about that. He was spent a few days with him, the guy did. This Icelandic guy. Bjartmar Anderson, his name is. Really nice guy. And he told me that after he'd spent a couple of days interviewing Siggy Thordarson, he had to take a week off. He had to actually go away for a week. The man was that disgusting. He disturbed him to the point where he had to go away and really take stock of life because of just how absolutely abhorrent this man was. The man that made up the lies that went into the indictment that the US used to get Julian into custody. Everything else came after it. This has been extended for as long as possible. I'm pretty sure, actually, in the hope that Julian will just die. And to the journalists in this country, I'll say this, because I know some of you will be listening to this. If Julian does die in prison, how will you feel about that? How will you feel knowing that you could have saved it, you could have saved him, you could have stopped him, and you chose not to? You could have stopped this torture. You could have stopped this slow motion murder. All you had to do was stand up, all of you, and do your job. That's it. All you had to do is stand up and go, boop, there's the truth, there's the job. No. You can't go after him. If you go after him, you're going to have to come after all of us. But they didn't. They cheered on his torture instead for 7 years, and now for 3 years he's been in solitary confinement. And now they were all silent or cheered on his torture for so long, none of them can say anything. How can you even look yourself in the mirror knowing that there's a man in your own profession right now that's in the centre of London, in the worst hellhole in this country, because he had the guts to do what you wouldn't? He had the guts to do his job to the best of his ability, which is far better than you lot, who are all pointing your fingers at Vladimir Putin now going, what a bad person he is. Like I say, he's terrible, but he's done a minuscule amount compared to what America have. America bombed Somalia last week. Israel bombed Syria. Saudi Arabia dropping bombs on Yemen every single day. You don't hear a goddamn thing about it, do you? Do you? Why is that? Why don't we hear about those wars and the deaths over there of innocent civilians and children and mothers and pregnant mothers? We don't hear about them. I do, because I get my news from places like Mint Press News, who actually cover those wars. But why is it those wars aren't covered in the UK by our media? But, you know, the war in Ukraine is. There's war crimes going on over there. Not in Yemen, though. Even though we supply the planes that go over Yemen and bomb the water towers, exacerbating the largest cholera outbreak in the history of ever, causing the largest humanitarian crisis on the planet right now. Not that you'd know that if you looked at the media. Obviously, you'd say it was Ukraine. It's getting up there, though, Ukraine is. But still, 20 million people, I think, are starving in Yemen. 20 million. Where's the media's outrage? We're supplying the weapons. We're supplying the bombs. We're training the pilots for them to do this. We're sending plane loads of parts over every week and servicing the planes that we sell them as they just committed genocide on the poorest nation in the Middle East. While our media point the finger over there and go, Putin's bad. Again, I'm not saying he isn't. He's terrible. But it's a small percent of what America have done. It's a tiny percent of what Julian Assange revealed America were guilty on. And by the way, there are plenty of documents that WikiLeaks have released about Russia and Israel and all the other countries, by the way. Not classing Israel in that. That's an illegal apartheid state. It's not a country, but you see what I mean? It wasn't just America that they released files on. It's released secrets on all sorts of countries, all sorts of companies as well. Where was the outrage then? I can't stress enough how important this is. I just can't. It is the most important story on the planet. Every other story revolves around it. You want to know the truth about Ukraine? Free Julian Assange. You want to know the truth about Donbass and the Azov battalion? Free Julian Assange. You want to know the truth about COVID? Wuhan? These biolabs in Ukraine that are not weapons labs at all, honest. Free Julian Assange. If you want to know the truth about war crimes, free Julian Assange. If you want to know the truth about the NHS being sold off to America, free Julian Assange. If you want to know the truth. If he's extradited, the truth's gone. It's finished. It's over. Your version of reality going forward is going to be based on absolute 100% codswallop. A fairy tale. Something thought up at Langley. Like I say, email your MP, please. Tell them about this. Demand that they stand up. Demand that they at least get educated about the facts about the case. Demand that they come to people who are covering it, the story properly, and not the legacy media. Demand they go to people like myself or Kevin Gutstola, Consortium News, and the other great reporters that are doing, you know, good work on this and covering the facts, not just the nonsense that the BBC do. You know, they're keeping people in the dark in this country. I said this in my email to the MP, to my MP. They're keeping the country in the dark about Julian's case because of stuff like this. This is the reason why the BBC aren't telling you what is going on. Because if they told the country, if the people knew that what was going on here, they would be absolutely apoplectic and demand something is done about his torture. This is why they're not telling the truth. It's not because, you know, they're doing a bad job or anything like that. No, no, no. It's because they're beholden to the United States of America. It's because the UK has no sovereignty. They're probably on some fucking tapes in the CIA that, you know, Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. Do I have to spell things out for you? I wonder how many politicians are on those tapes. Is that why the media are not talking about this? I bet it's one of the reasons. I find it interesting that in the last few years, the one man who we look to, and the one outlet that we look to, that we know has a 100% accuracy record, is behind bars. Whilst intelligence agencies around the world flood the airwaves with as much disinformation and misinformation as possible, so nobody knows what the frigging truth is. Don't you think that's interesting? Don't you think it's interesting that the media are not talking about this story? Don't you find it interesting that the BBC haven't covered this at all? They're 24/7 Ukraine right now. This is the CIA planning to kidnap and kill a journalist in the middle of London. Crickets. And of course, Siggy lied. If Julian is extradited and these two stories aren't covered properly, then I've got a statement to make. Anybody who is complicit in it, anybody who signs the extradition, anybody in Parliament or the media who doesn't stand up and say this is wrong and doesn't oppose it and doesn't stand up to the American, well, let's face it, fascists. I want to know, why not? Why not? Why not? You want some videotapes, by any chance? Did you ever go on a plane on an island in the Caribbean, by any chance? I know quite a few of those MPs and top people in this country were in Ghislaine Maxwell's little black book, weren't they? Eh? Where's she, by the way? The UK has no sovereignty. The UK must resist. If we let Julian Assange, if Parliament, if our government lets Julian Assange go to America, I want to know how many of them are paedophiles on Jeffrey Epstein's tapes. Because that's what it's going to come down to. Why are you silent on this? Why are you silent on this? What are you scared America are going to do? Huh? We're meant to be an ally, aren't we? If any MP allows this to go ahead, if any MP cheers this on, they're a fucking traitor. They're a traitor to this country and they need to be in jail, let's face it. I was going to say something worse then, but apparently you can only say that about Russians now on Facebook. Alright, I only meant that for 5 minutes and I just went on for about half an hour, I'm sorry. But it's just, come on. Who are you working for? In the media, in this country, MPs, who are you beholden to? Who do you serve? Do you serve the British people? Or are you silent because there's a tape somewhere with your fucking name on it? You disgusting perverts. We are arming Nazis in Ukraine. £100 million in arms, in weapons. We've got no money for the nurses, for the doctors, for the police, for the fire brigade, for none of them. We've got no money for none of them, but we've got £100 million worth of missiles that we can send Nazis in Ukraine to fight Russians. While we torture the journalist that proved the real war criminals are our allies in Washington. I've dropped a little video about this next story on YouTube. I tried to do it on TikTok as well, but for some reason it wouldn't upload or go live. Maybe it has by now. But I just want to go into it a little bit in depth because if you watch Dr. John Campbell on YouTube like I do, I get all of my information with regards to COVID from him pretty much. And he was talking about this on Wednesday, I think, last week. There's been a Freedom of Information Act request made by these people, the Public Health and Medical Professionals for Transparency. Their website is phmpt.org. If you want to go and visit it, please do. Because the Freedom of Information Act request that they made was to do with documents at Pfizer and to do with all the statistics that Pfizer have got on the vaccines, etc. And if you can click on documents, you see here there's hundreds of documents that have been released, absolutely hundreds of them. And there's going to be more. The judge that has signed off on these to make sure that these go public, there's going to be thousands over the next few months released in stages. And it took a signature of a judge for these documents to be released, by the way. These are all documents that are really interesting, and I just want to show you one of them. It's this one. Cumulative analysis of post-authorization adverse event reports. It sounds a bit weird. Basically, this report is sort of like after-sales questions that were asked people after they took the Pfizer vaccine at the beginning of the rollout. And these statistics they're based on the period between December the 1st, 2020 and February the 28th, 2021. So pretty much the first 3 months that the vaccine was being rolled out. Now, if you remember at this time, the vaccine was being rolled out and everybody, it was safe. That's all you kept hearing on the media. It was safe. It was no problem with the vaccines. And if you said anything that could have made, even if it was factual, that could have led people down a path of being vaccine hesitant as a result of that, you would lose your social media channel, you would lose your YouTube channel, the lot, right? But it was safe. That's all we kept hearing. Do you remember? Safe, safe, safe. Like I say, this is through 28th of February 2021 from December. And you can see there, let me just put my, there you go. You can see 42,086 case reports. Now this is cases of people. That's not cases, that's people. 42,086 people over those 3 months that recorded they had an adverse reaction to the vaccine. Okay, that sounds all right, 42,000. Okay, seems a lot, but it is 3 months. But again, it was 3 months at the beginning of the rollout of the vaccine. Now, that figure there, as you can see, is the one that really alarmed me. And Dr. John, when he looked at it as well. 1,223 fatalities. That's associated with the COVID vaccine, with the Pfizer vaccine specifically, in 3 months. Okay, I hear what you're saying, because the first thing I thought was, well, all right, that sounds like a lot, but it depends on how many doses were administered, doesn't it? Because you need to divide the number of fatalities by the doses administered, and then you get a percentage of people that would die from the vaccine. But as you can see here, and this is what's really interesting to me, they've redacted that number. So you can't, that before, they've redacted the number, so you can't actually see what the percentage rate is, what the fatality rate is. Do you see what I mean? Obviously it would have looked really dodgy if they'd have redacted that number or that number, the 1,200, but so why redact that? Now this is just one document that has been released. There's hundreds of documents, and I must say this, I must point this out, because at the bottom of the document, here's all the these are all the adverse events. There's it's tachycardia and all sorts of horrible side effects that have been listed here. You can see it just goes on and on and on and on. But if you come down to the bottom here, you can see Pfizer, regardless of all these stats, and they do sound a lot, I know, but they say review of the available data for this cumulative PM experience confirms a favourable benefit-risk balance. So even though all of these figures look, to me at least, I'm sure they do to you, extremely high, especially for a vaccine that all they said at the time was safe. You don't need to be hesitant, it's safe, don't worry. Anybody who says it's not safe is an anti-vaxxer and bleh, they should use their social media account. But 1,200 people have died there. Like I say, they have said that it's safe, though, as a result. But I suppose they kind of had to. Let me know what you think in the comments. And then the really strange thing is on this document here is the appendix of the adverse events of special interest. So adverse events of special interest, these are just, side effects to the vaccine. Look at how many there is. There's just pages and pages and pages and pages. Some of these are worse than others, but like I say, one of the side effects is death. None of this, and I'm not saying this because I'm an anti-vaxxer or anything, no, I've been vaccinated. I'm saying this because I want to get to the truth of this. At the time, I was very, okay, we need to get vaccinated. And at the time, I was very pro-vaccination because of, that's what everybody around the world was pretty much saying the same thing. Countries that hated each other were saying the same thing. But now we're looking back at this data and we're starting to, we need to really look at this data and ask questions of it. And the reason I say we need to is because this has been out for a week or so now, and our legacy media are not talking about this at all. They're just not. And you have to ask why, when they're quiet on like this on a story which I think is incredibly interesting, don't you? You have to ask why they are. You know, we've got PCSD in the world, really. Not in this country, just all over the world. We've got PCSD. We've got post-COVID stress disorder. Some people have absolutely, it's destroyed them the last few years, have. They don't know whether they're coming, they're going. They don't know what to believe. And you can hardly blame them. There's so much misinformation and disinformation out there. And that's just the stuff put out from our governments. That's without the rubbish that, you know, other governments around the world have put out. That's just our government. They've done a proper number on us. And not only is it interesting to me that the media aren't talking about this, but also it's really interesting to me that it needed a signature from a judge for this information to come out. They wanted to, I think it was until 2097 they wanted to keep this secret. I think this is the one. They weren't going to release it until a judge made them, basically. So why did it need a judge's signature for us to get our hands on this information? We're the ones who are taking this vaccine. We're the ones who have a right to know whether it is safe or not, and have a right to know exactly what the statistics are before we make an informed choice on our own bodies, especially going forward. And why is it not only that our media was silent, but also that they over and over and over said it's safe, 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 when clearly, well, I don't call 1,223 deaths safe. Do you? More questions needed. We're going to have to ask them. Because our media aren't. We need to switch them off. We all need to. I'm so angry with them right now. I really am. I had a super chat, didn't I? Thank you. Thank you, Asim Gilani. Thank you. Thank you for being as angry as I am right now. Thank you for screaming on my behalf. Love you, Gordon. Love from Canada. Canada, eh? Love you too, Asim. Thank you, mate. I'm ashamed of my country. I grew up on stories of heroism. I loved reading about war when I was a kid. World War II. I used to have mobiles of Spitfires and Lockheed bombers hanging from, you know, the Airfix models hanging from my ceiling. I used to go to bed at night looking up at those incredibly brave people that fought for our democracy. You know, if you don't know the story of the Battle of Britain and World War II, you know, not necessarily World War II, but the Battle of Britain especially, if you don't know the story of the Battle of Britain, please go and watch a documentary. You don't have to be a war, you know, somebody who likes documentaries on war. I don't like war, but I like watching documentaries on it. But I look back at all the stories that I heard growing up of these fantastic, brave, heroic men who, you know, the great story of that one dry dock in France that was put out of action by our SAS, by the members, well, our commandos at the time, put out of action by a boat that we rammed into the gates and blew up to make sure that the turbits or whatever it was that the Germans' big battleship couldn't get into open water into the Atlantic. I look back at, you know, the incredible men who tried to secure all those bridges, and the story of Bridge Too Far. And then look back at the D-Day landings and those incredible men that fought, and women, that fought for our democracy and our way of life. And I think back now and I look at what we've got in this country now and how we've just capitulated to fascists in Washington. And I just think those brave men, they're rolling over in their grave right now. We've rolled over. We've just rolled over. America got their big red, white and blue dick and said, we're going to shove this up your arse, UK. And the UK went, let me grab my ankles. We beat fascism in World War II only for the weak leaders that we have now to be beholden to it. To be beholden to just disgusting pedophiles and rapists and murderers and war criminals. That's who run this country now. Not Boris Johnson, not Priti Patel. Joe fucking Biden. That's who runs the UK. The CIA. The NSA. That's who runs the UK. That's who our MPs serve. They don't serve you or me. If they did, they'd be screaming about Julian Assange from the rooftops. But they're not. Why not? Why not? Is it because the UK has no sovereignty? Because every single thing that I have seen and heard with my own eyes and ears over the last few years proves that absolutely it has no sovereignty. What we want in this country, what you and I want, doesn't fucking matter. Does not matter. It only matters what the fascists in America want, the fascists in Washington. That's all that matters. There's not a single politician down there with any guts. The only one I would say that had guts, they absolutely crucified. He's a shadow of what he was now, Corbyn. Anyone that really did stand up to the Assange stuff, they crucified. Look at what happened to Chris Williamson. I mean, they ruined his career based on something that they said he didn't say. It's incredible. His entire career, they absolutely smashed to smithereens. 50 fucking years, I think, he'd spent in the Labour Party. I remember when I went over, he was telling me stories of how he used to stand up to the skinheads in the 70s. And the fascists back then. And look what happened to him. The only person that really was standing up for Julian Assange, the only person really who was standing up for Palestine as well, let's face it, they crucified. Who do they serve? If they do serve you and me, why is it that everything that these absolute horrible people do, and including the media there as well as our politicians, serves America? There's something else I want to talk about as well while I'm here. I haven't got necessarily a story set up for this, but I can wing it. Because censorship is the enemy of truth. And on the outset of war, the first casualty is the truth. And right now, oh yeah, I've just thought about something else I'm going to talk about. And right now, all over the world, not just in the UK, but in America as well, the censorship is, well, it's worse than I can ever remember in my lifetime. I don't know about you. And YouTube are starting to taking stuff down left, right and centre. This is Lee Camp. His TV show Redacted Tonight has been deleted from YouTube. So even if you hate everything I ever said, are we all cool with this? Big Tech deletes everything that goes against the corporate state. Does that sound fine? Or has America become the monster it claims to fight against? I'd suggest yes, it really has, Lee. It's not just Lee it's affected. I know Chris Hedges, the great Chris Hedges. He's, remember, journalists on RT in America weren't on RT because they were propagandists for hire. If that was the case, Rachel Maddow would be on there and Chris Hayes. No. Journalists on RT in America were on RT in America because they told the truth about America. That's what it is. You only need to listen to Lee Camp at the beginning of Redacted Tonight, where Americans in America doing American news are called foreign agents. Chris Hedges, I think 500 episodes or something of On Contact, which I love, gone. Abby Martin, YouTube banned 600 episodes of my old show Breaking the Set. I love Breaking the Set, I really did. It's where I first fell in love with Abby Martin. Although I will say that the camera work led a lot. I didn't like the camera work. Used to zoom in like that on her and zoom out and go all at different angles. But yeah, it was great. The years-long censorship campaign culminated in tech giants purging thousands of my critical interviews and reports about the US empire. Gutted. Of course, this was all stuff that was critical of the US empire. All factual stuff with background and reports and websites to look up and back up the information. She said this in 2017. The US Director of National Intelligence said Breaking the Set, quote, promoted radical discontent for covering things like socialism and third parties. The government campaign to censor forbidden viewpoints started then and won't stop until we're all gone. And knowing this, she says, was coming still doesn't prepare you for the loss. Wasn't able to get the full archive. I have been backing up my videos for over a year now. Everything that I do I back up on drives at home. Because I pretty much could see the writing on the wall, everybody could. But obviously when you're somebody like Abby Martin and you've got a massive back catalogue going back like 10 years, it's going to be difficult to download everything. It's not just that though. As she points out here, the channel hosted a community. I do here. With a time capsule of comments and embeds in countless articles that are now dead. Of course. All the comments below my videos, I make a habit of saying, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I've finished my videos doing that because I like looking at the comments and seeing the information that you put in there. The links of other information that you put in there to back up what you say is truth. All of that is gone. All of it. And they're not censoring MSNBC here. And they're not censoring CNN. And they're not censoring Fox or OAN or any of these other outlets. Just RT. Just the Russian ones. Just the ones that tell the truth. Now, I don't expect RT to be telling the whole truth about Russia, of course. But can you point me to anything that RT have done that is just factually wrong, that you can prove is a lie, is false? I could point you to a million things that CNN and MSNBC have done over the years. I've done about 100 videos myself on just those two outlets and the ridiculous lies that they push on a daily basis. I don't see their videos getting censored and getting deleted from YouTube. Like I say, censorship is the enemy of truth. And we need to fight against it. We don't cheer this on. You may not like RT. And if you don't like RT, then what that does say to me is you probably didn't watch it. Because if you did, your eyes would have been open. Wow. It's like watching different news. It's stuff that you actually want to hear. And it's gone now. And it's not just gone from America and the UK. It's gone from everywhere. YouTube have deleted them, gone. How long before it's me? I mean, I don't really bother with YouTube too much anymore. I pretty much know my channel's going to get yanked at some stage. But how long before we're all gone? How long before there is no diverting from the narrative? How long before, if you divert from the narrative, well, your social credit score goes down? How long before, if you divert from the narrative, oh, maybe your cryptocurrency doesn't work to buy alcohol? It's all coming in at the same time, isn't it? It's like the powers that be didn't like the fact that truth was getting out, so they decided to confuse everything and then shut down all avenues of information. Until pretty soon you only get one avenue of information, and that's the official information.
Am I calling a bad time?
Well, I'm live on YouTube.
I am.
Yeah. Right, there you go. I think there was one more other thing I wanted to talk about. Yeah, we can't, we need to fight back against this censorship. Find avenues of, I suggest you subscribe and you follow all of the people that I've just mentioned. Abby Martin, Chris Hedges, Lee Camp, Caleb Moke, and my mate Caleb has been caught up in this as well. Follow them all. They're not Russian state affiliated media, no matter what Twitter says. So we need to talk about this, everybody. This is Anders Asland, and he's a member. Well, he's a member of the Atlantic Council. You know, the Atlantic Council is this sort of neocon outlet that Facebook uses as a fact-checking site, which is kind of hilarious considering Henry Kissinger's on the board of the Atlantic Council, and Nick Clegg is kind of like, you know, running around at Facebook at the moment and banning anybody who wants to say anything truthful. But at the same time, well, you can hate on Russians and wish Russians dead. We can allow that on Facebook now. And oh yeah, you can call for the murder of Vladimir Putin on Facebook without worry that you're going to get sanctioned. And as a result of all this Russophobia that's going on, the neocons and the neo-libs in Washington and the Atlantic Council are falling over themselves to compare Putin with Hitler. And this guy, Anders Asland, said this: Hitler recognised Poland but called for concessions. Putin absurdly claims that Ukraine is not a state. Hitler had left the League of Nations. Putin violates every international law there is. Hitler did not use chemical weapons. Putin is preparing to do so. Oh. Does anybody remember how Hitler killed all those people in those what were they? Was it gas chambers? Do you remember? It was gas chambers, wasn't it? He killed all those millions of people, Jews and Romas and the disabled and gypsies, etc. He gassed them, didn't he? Zyklon B, wasn't it called that? This is what happens when you're cheering this on. These people are happy that this war is happening. They're happy. They got what they wanted. They can now do whatever they can. They can now point fingers and Putin say, look, he's a bad guy. It's terrible. Look at all those people he's doing that to. Pay no attention to anything that we've done in the history. In fact, YouTube, start scrubbing all the episodes that have got anything negative to say about America. Start with RT. There's a lot on there. This ended up somehow. Rachel Maddow retweeted it. Like, I think it was this one. This is the craziness that's going on at the moment. And these are the people with the blue ticks. These are the people that the media listen to. These are the thinkers of the world. These are the people who are thinking up shit that's going to be the next step for Facebook. And Hitler didn't use chemical weapons. This is what these people are saying. So desperate to make Vladimir Putin out to be a bad guy. I'm not saying he's not. No way am I saying that. What I'm saying is they're having to do this because so far, with Ukraine at least, he hasn't done 10% of what America and us have done in Libya, in Iraq, in Iran, in Somalia, in Yemen. Not 10%. I mean, has he killed 1 million people yet? Have 1 million people died in Ukraine? Because that's how many people died in Iraq. A war based on lies. And by the way, the people who lied us into that war, where are they right now? Are they in prison? Are they in jail? No. What? The journalist that exposed their lies is in jail? While they're getting knighthoods from the Queen? There was a young lady I heard. I was at one of the Assange meetings. And I heard a story of a lady who committed suicide because of all the terribleness that's in the world at the moment. Is it any wonder that there's so much evil in the world if good people do nothing? Is it any wonder that fascists are getting away with doing what they're doing at the moment? Is it any wonder that evil is winning, that journalists are being tortured on our very shores? If good men and women in this country do nothing, I can't stress. I just can't. I can't put it into words about how important Julian Assange's case is, not just to journalism, but to the fourth estate and democracy itself. If you ask any person who's independent, who will, just any academic or anybody in journalism who's not beholden to corporate entities, just how important it is, they'll say the same thing as I've told you. But it seems the people in our media and the people in our government right now, well, it seems they're all on Epstein's tapes at the FBI, doesn't it? Because they're just not standing up. They're taking the path of least resistance and they're doing nothing. You tell them huge revelations, like the CIA planned to kidnap and kill Julian in the middle of London, that the original indictment which led Julian to being snatched in that act of fascism and thrown in Belmarsh without charge, was based on the lies of a convicted fraudster and pedophile. Somebody whose pedophilic ways was that disgusting. One of the children that he fiddled with, that he messed with, that he wasn't charged with any crime, ended up killing themselves. That's one of the people they didn't charge him with a crime over. Even he said to the journalist, yeah, they should have charged me with that. And this is the person who the FBI hang their hat on. He's their key witness. He's the person that got them to be able to do the hacking indictment. Siggy the hacker never hacked a goddamn thing in his life. Hello, man. Thank you, man. Per character exaggeratingly stretching his arm forward to offer a cup of coffee. Thank you, man. Thank you. I gather that's what that's for. All right. I was only going to be a short video today. I wanted to cover this Assange thing. Everybody, please, if you haven't already, even if you have, send an email to your MP. Get on Twitter. Start harassing journalists. Anybody with a blue tick, at The Guardian especially. Start asking them who they are working for. Start asking MPs, who do you serve? Do you serve the people of this country? Or do you serve fascists in Washington who hate truth, justice and liberty? All right. I'm going to go, everybody. Thank you very much for all your support. Please go to the website and subscribe to my mailing list if you haven't already. I didn't tonight, but I'll send an email blast out next time I go live. So subscribe to the mailing list, and you know anything that I'm doing, I don't spam you with bullshit. You know, I don't actually send that many emails out. So yeah, you'll be able to keep informed of what I do. With all the censorship that's going on at the moment, the chances are I'm going to be disappearing from one or all platforms. Who knows in the future? So that's pretty much the only way that I reckon in the future we're going to be able to talk to each other. Really, it's really bad. This censorship is really terrible, and we're murdering a journalist for proving war criminals in America were war criminals, whilst all our journalists point at Putin and say, oh, isn't he bad? Shouldn't he go to The Hague? No, he shouldn't. Not based on the fact that Hillary Clinton hasn't gone to The Hague, or George Bush, or Tony Blair, or Obama, or Trump, or Biden, or May, or Cameron. None of them have been tried for their war crimes, have they? Theresa May and Donald Trump bombed a country based on an event that didn't happen. That is called the supreme war crime. I don't see anybody calling for them to be tried in The Hague. Or maybe Trump for something totally different. David Cameron went to the Houses of Parliament and said, please give me permission to go to war with Syria. And they went, no, you're having a laugh, no, forget it. Guess what he did? He went to war with Syria anyway. There's been a dirty war over there for 8 years. We're still in it right now. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Like I say, go to the mailing list, sign up there. Please share, please like, please comment. Tell me what you think about this down below. I'm absolutely, as you can tell, I'm pretty down. I'm pretty devastated, but we'll get ourselves up and we'll keep fighting because Julian will. So should we. Take care, everybody. End the goddamn wars. Peace.